Welcome to the EntrePastors podcast on YouTube. This is a show that helps pastors think, act, and thrive as prosperous entrepreneurs. Well, Michael, it is our pleasure to welcome you to the EntrePastors podcast, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jon, Les. Great to be here. Love the work that you guys are doing. Over 200 episodes now, right?
Yeah, man.
That's a big deal. Congrats,
How about
guys.
that?
That's awesome.
How about that?
That's a lot of words, bro. That's a lot of words under the bridge. So, and many more to come.
Indeed. Yeah.
But, well, hey, man, thank you for that. And thanks for being with us today. We're going to explore a little bit of your story. I think it's fair to say the work that you're doing in addition to pastoring, you might be one of the first guys that's really into investments the way that you're doing it. I think I'm kind of, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking back through my Rolodex of past guests, and you might be etching out a category on your own here inside of EntrePastors. So I'm excited to get to this.
For sure.
Before we jump into that, tell us just a little bit about your journey into pastoral ministry. Where are you serving, and what did that look like for you to get into the world of working as a pastor vocationally?
Yeah. I've been, my entire adult life has been in pastoral ministry. In fact, when I was still in high school, preached my first sermon as a sophomore, junior in high school. Grew up in a small country church and knew that was the direction God was leading me, and had a terrific pastor who allowed me as many opportunities to preach as I wanted. And so from there went to Bible college, and then a master's, and all the way to a PhD in theology. So did all of the schooling that I could do. Met my wife in undergrad at Bible college. We were engaged within 6 months, married within a year, and then set off on the educational adventure together, and have served in large churches, small churches, parachurch ministries. We've kind of run the gamut of that. We now have found ourselves in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, where we've been for the last probably 9 or 10 years now. And the last 6 of those years, we have been doing this ministry that we're going to talk about here today, as well as pastoring a church plant here in the Tulsa area.
And this is a church plant that you all planted?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of accidentally, we like to say, because we were starting this ministry to pastors and their families, and had a small group of people that wanted us to be their shepherd as well. And they came to our house to meet with us, to pray with us for this ministry, and kept asking us to be their pastor. And they would come on Sunday afternoons, and after 3 or 4 weeks of them coming every single Sunday, we're like, well, we're basically meeting as a church as it is. So let's just keep this going. And that was 6 years ago. And so, yeah, that's been a really great adventure that we're on too.
Okay. So that's interesting. And not that I care about the metrics in terms of the numbers, but like, what has that grown into? I'd just be curious to see what an accidental church plant, like, what does that look like today when you all gather? Is it still kind of home setting, or is it growing?
No, we rent a space from another church. We meet on Sunday evenings.
Okay.
And because we kind of started it on Sunday evenings as just kind of a meal time together, and it's kind of grown from that. Once COVID happened, we kind of stopped doing the meals every single week, and we've reintroduced that, and we do it about every once a month now. But we've got 15 or 20 families that gather every single Sunday evening, and we incorporate the work that we're doing with pastors as part of that. This group of people have a heart for pastors and pastoral families, ministry leaders like I've never seen. And so every service includes time where we're praying for other pastors around the country that we're working with. And it's just a really, really cool thing that we get to do.
That's cool. And so then I might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in the story, but where my mind went instantly as I'm kind of picturing a cool, kind of non-traditional gathering, but maybe a little bit, one could argue, more New Testament style gathering of a church body. My mind went to, that doesn't really fit the economic model of what we've traditionally known pastoring to look like. So is it safe to say that you never were fully funded by that particular model, in terms of you were getting income beyond just what your pastoring activity looks like? Is that a fair guess? Because that's what's going through my head right now.
It's probably a little more nuanced than that, but yeah, I think that's the direction you're going is fair, because my time is split between the church and the Allies ministry, but it's so I'm kind of co-vocational, but it's within the same entity. But then I have some other side hustle stuff on the side that kind of helps supplement some of that.
Gotcha.
So
All
yeah.
right. Well, then
Mhm.
let's dive into that part of the story. Tell us a little bit about your G6 alliance and what or allies. Is it alliance or
Ally G6 allies, yeah,
tell us all about that? What is
yeah,
that? And
for
let's go
sure.
there.
So G6, I'll start with the name and where that comes from. So G6 is from Galatians 6:2 that instructs us to carry one another's burdens. And as a pastor myself, having worked with dozens and dozens of pastors over the last few decades, I know that so many pastors are carrying the burdens of their congregations, right? But sadly, it's oftentimes the case that they don't have someone there to carry their burdens. And we that's where we wanted to step in and help fix that. We wanted to be people who are carrying the burdens of other pastoral families, because
Mhm.
pastors are people too, right? We have the same struggles, the same challenges, the same fears and anxieties, the same pressures, the same stressors that everyone else does. But for some reason, we've kind of built the pastoral role up to be that it has to be perfect. They have to always have everything together, never can show any signs of weakness or vulnerability. And look at where that has led us. The
Yeah.
number of burnouts in pastoral ministry, the number of moral failings in ministry, it's an epidemic that needs to be corrected. And so one of the ways that we try to help do that is by helping alleviate some of those burdens that pastors are carrying. And the allies part of it, simply because we believe everyone needs an ally. So G6 allies, that's how the name came. So we want to be an ally for pastors. We want to be in their corner, helping support them, and encourage them. So my wife and I started the ministry back in 2018, and our entire goal is just to build resilient Christian leaders. That's what we want to do, because we know that if we can help carry some of the burdens that they're carrying, then those ministry leaders are going to be healthier versions of themselves, leading healthier churches. And so we've got three really main ways that we do that. One is pastoral care for the pastors themselves, because pastors need that as well. Secondly, we have some team development tools, some leadership development tools for both staff teams and for volunteer teams, because that's one thing pastors are always looking for help in doing. And the third one is much more specialized, and that's what I think we're want to talk about here today. But we have an online training hub where we've networked with other organizations who are experts at coaching pastors in particular areas, so that pastors can kind of get to come to this one place to get training that they need in whatever area or aspect of life that they want to focus on, whether that's physical health, their own spiritual health, emotional intelligence, or in my case, the area that I contribute to it in is in financial health.
Okay, awesome. That's a great overview. One of the questions I was going to ask, and you've already sort of gone down this road a little, because I was kind of going to ask, like, what was the desire to serve pastors and come alongside of them? And you've already outlined, like, because of the challenges of ministry
Yeah,
as we know it, and the results that we're getting, the fruit that our current model of church is producing, we're seeing so many pastors leave ministry feeling just utterly defeated and as though they have failed or whatever. Maybe in some
right.
cases they have. Was there a moment, like, what led you guys to look at that and say, man, we need to lean into this. Someone needs to do something. Was there a certain milestone in your own journey that caused you to say, we got to do this?
Yeah, there was. I mean, it was a developing sense that there was a need for this here, and some of the work I had done with some church planners scattered throughout North America, and just the connections that I had and conversations I was having with pastors. It was just like there was something under the surface here bubbling, but we weren't really sure what to do with it, or where we should go with it. And then we ended up leaving a church that we were with here in the Tulsa area under not great circumstances, and it was kind of a shock. It was a painful thing that our whole family went through, and it was kind of that moment that we realized, okay, this is the opportunity that we have been looking for. And it kind of took God pushing us off the cliff a little bit and allowing us to experience some of that pain to really get us to get up out of our comfort zone and move and go do something about it.
Hmm.
So that was really kind of what sparked it. And so we see down this is what we're going to do and hit the ground running right away back in 2018. So
Okay.
and haven't looked back since.
From a business standpoint or a funding standpoint, what has that model look like for you guys as you're starting this? I mean, is this a nonprofit approach? Like,
Yeah.
how are you funding this?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit, and which benefits on the church side too, since it is partially a church and partially this other ministry. The nonprofit route made the most sense, and so we have relied on donations from um, generous givers as well as tithe dollars from the members of the church too. Um, but like we kind of alluded to earlier on, that has not always been uh, enough to cover all of not just living expenses, but some of the expansion in the ministry that we've wanted to see and that we've been able to implement. A lot of that had to come through additional resources and additional funds, which we were able to do through this other side hustle that I do and some of the own investing things that I've been doing for years.
Got it. Well, that's a great jumping off point then. You maybe didn't use this terminology. We would call that the EntrePastor journey. That's where you
Yeah.
have this sense of calling on your life and you're in ministry, and yet you realize, man, we need to do something to bring in a few extra dollars here. And so you look beyond the four walls of the church or what we think traditionally of how ministry is funded. So tell us that story. What did that look like for you to say, I need to create more revenue and here's how I'm going to do it? What did you do?
Well, I mean, I did what I had been doing, and that's one of the reasons I'm a big advocate of pastors having a side hustle or some secondary source of income, so that when something happens and you find yourself without your full time paycheck coming in, you've got some things in place there that will help offset some of that, and so that was certainly our case. And I mean, we had this group of people that came around us, and that was the core of this church plant. That I can never say enough good things about, and their generosity and the way they help support absolutely carried us through. But the steps I had taken in the years prior to that, and learning what I had learned about investing and how the way I do it and the way I managed all of that, we were in a position that when we found ourselves without that job, that we had that cushion there. We had something to fall back on. It wasn't a emergency send up the flare gun kind of a thing. There was, we needed to figure out what to do, obviously, but we had that safety net in place, and so I was able to continue doing the investing and the trading that I was doing and pull money from that account to offset some of the bills. So we never missed a mortgage payment, never late on any payments of anything that we had, and just wise financial management leading into that, so that we could recover from some unforeseen chaotic events in our financial life for sure.
Yeah. So
Well,
let's,
Michael, as you were, excuse me, John, but
yeah.
as you were navigating all that, Michael, did you,
Mhm.
you might have mentioned this, I just didn't catch it. Are you pretty much self-taught and self-directed, or did you have a coach that was helping you navigate those waters, especially early on?
In the investing side of things, you mean?
Well, that and also the management part. You talked about just being able to manage all of that, never being late on
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
you know.
Uh, no, it
Oh,
was self-taught for sure. In fact, that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about helping pastors develop good financial practices. Is that was a huge area of weakness for me
Mm.
early on. I was never taught how to manage money well. In fact, my wife and I the other day were reminiscing about when we first got married, or when we were engaged before we got married. uh, I would bounce my checking account all the time because I just did not know how to manage money. I couldn't keep track of what was coming in and what was going out. I was just terrible at it and never had any education on how to do it. And so my wife said, "Hey, we got to get this under control." And so I started learning it, and then on the investing side of things, 15 plus years ago, had no idea anything about stocks or any of that kind of stuff. And I just decided, hey, we've saved up a little bit. I want to put this away for for the, the long term, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to randomly pick a couple stocks and put it in there. And I had like $2,400, something like that, that I put into an investment account and made my first trades in there. And a couple days later, that $2,400 was worth about 4,000. And I thought,
Okay.
hey, this is easy. So I sold it, and I wasn't planning on doing anything with it, and I was just going to hang on to that. And so I was like, well, I can't look that gift horse in the mouth. So I took my money and I'm going to do this again. And so I repeated that a couple of times. And within about 90 days, had made about $30,000. And I
Oh my
thought,
goodness.
man, this is easy. Like
Piece of
anybody can
cake.
do this.
Piece of
And
cake.
yeah,
John, he
and
harvested a deer his first time in the woods, John.
that's
That's
right.
what happened.
That's right.
It took me however many years for that to happen.
And so then once I had figured everything out and I knew all that there was to know about investing in my first 90 days, I quickly grew that $30,000 back down to about 6,000,
There it
and
is.
realized, oh, wait a minute, this is not as easy as I initially thought it was.
Yeah.
But the damage was already done. I was hooked, and I loved the financial markets, and so I began studying everything I could about them and learning all of the different ones. There's probably not
It's okay. Yeah.
not an avenue of investing or of trading that I haven't tried. Forex, stocks,
John went
options,
out and
bonds,
bought a 4-wheeler with
futures.
all the money he was going to save on meat because of that deer. It don't work that way.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of how I got started in that. And so for the last 15 years, I have studied the markets and I've learned how to do them. And I'm in a unique place of over several years, having been able to fine tune my approach to it, where I've got it kind of down to a science, and it doesn't take a lot of my time, so that I can focus most of my time on being a pastor and on leading this ministry, and then do the investing stuff on the side, and be able to make money off of that while I'm focusing my primary attention on my real vocation.
I have a kind of a 30,000-foot question and then a little bit more specific question for you. But one of the things we often ask our guests on this podcast, who are pastors that have taken some kind of EntrePastor approach to life and they're out in the marketplace, when you were involved in that at the early days of like really leaning into that and developing that other stream of revenue, was there any mindset struggle that you had of like, man, I'm a pastor, I'm supposed to be making my money from, the work of the gospel and not something else out here? Did you struggle with anything like that? Or was that a pretty easy step for you to go, no, I can be in two places at once, and this isn't a hard thing for me?
No, I it was a pretty easy step for us. In fact, the way that we looked at it, we in 2000, after the 2008 crash and a lot of that, we were in a parachurch organization at the time that was all fundraising. And so the ministry that I was doing, I was raising my own support for it. Well, and during an economic crisis like we saw in 2008, fundraising is one of the first things that dries up, right?
Sure. Yep.
And so we knew that we needed to figure something out, because the funding just wasn't coming in like it had been. And that kind of lined up with this. And so as I'm learning to do this, I was able to make some decent money on the investing side of things, so that we could continue to do the ministry that we were doing, and explore other opportunities in ministry while we were drawing an income from the investing thing. So in fact, there was about a 2-year period where my full-time income was through investing.
Wow.
And the ministry side was kind of the bivocational component to it.
Well, and that's kudos to you. We celebrate that. Our goal is to help other pastors not struggle with that mindset, or to not feel that they're doing something, wrong or sneaky or whatever, by building another stream of revenue in addition to their pastoral work. So,
and so our mindset behind that was really that, because of the way that aligned and the timing of that, that was simply God's way of providing for us, in that he allowed us to learn this skill and to figure this thing out at just the right time. And so it was very much a an attitude of gratefulness on our part of thank you, Lord, for the mercy to teach us what we need to know to keep income coming in to provide for our family so that we can continue doing ministry at the same time without having to go, get another job somewhere that would take more time, more attention away from the ministry that we wanted to do. So it was an easy move for us, to answer your question.
Yeah, well, that's great. So where I want to go next then is get a little bit more detailed. Like, let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit into the world of trading. And I think I have a lot of questions down this road, but one, I'll give you a few of them and you can just start taking it in any direction you want. Is this for anybody, or are there certain, people that maybe should shy away from this? Maybe speak to that pastor listening to this that might be intrigued or completely freaked out, maybe speak to both of those. And, is this something to convince somebody to step into, or is it really for someone who's already kind of leaning in because they have the right makeup? Like, what advice would you give to somebody who's not in this space yet, but recognizes there is a way to invest and make an income doing this thing?
Yeah. So a lot of times when you hear something about trading, or you hear something on the news about stocks or investing, what makes the headlines are the meme stocks, the roaring kitty, the cryptocurrency stuff where people have $1,000 and all of a sudden they've got $20 million 2 days later, or the guys that lose it all doing that kind of stuff. And that's, if that's what you're looking for, you're wasting your time and your money, and you're wasting God's resources. So I want to encourage you to stay away from that. My approach to it and what I do, it's all based on Proverbs 13:11 that says, "Money gained hastily will dwindle, but he who gathers little by little will make it grow." And that's the mindset behind the type of investing that I do. We don't chase big wins. We don't chase the glamorous 50,000% return kind of things. I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in a couple of things. One, does it take very little time to do? Because we've got too many other things going on. We don't need to just add something else to our plate. So does it take little time to do? Two, can I calculate the risk ahead of time? And does it fit within my personal risk parameters and my own personal psychology of what kind of risk I can handle? And so I'm not a huge risk taker by nature. And so I like to keep that pretty conservatively, which I think fits for a lot of pastors are not big risk takers. Some need to take bigger risks than they do, I think, but I have a very conservative approach on that front. And then the third one is can we repeat the process with small consistent wins so that it builds up over time? And that's what I have founded my entire approach and fine-tuned my approach down to, is answering those three questions in the affirmative. And so, yeah, if I'm talking to a pastor who is interested in this, like never done this before, I'm a great place for that, because I've designed, I've got two different tiers on the investing side of things, one for stocks and one for options. Both of them are designed for the complete beginner. In fact, the majority of people that I have been coaching and that are part of my programs have never, I don't think any of them had ever traded options before in their life before my program. And the majority, I would say, had never invested in individual stocks for themselves before this program. So we provide all of the education that they need for that, and walk them through it, and down to sending out weekly or monthly newsletter type things where we show here's some great opportunities for you to look at. Here's what I'm looking for. This is where I would look to buy these 3 or 4 stocks. Here's where I would get out. So I mean, we hold your hand through the whole process to really teach you this skill. We're trying to find that balance of giving a man a fish and teaching him to fish. Obviously, I want you to learn how to fish, but that does take a little more effort on your part. So we're going to hold your hand and give you a fish while we teach you how to do it.
Yeah, I love that. So this is part of, if I heard you right at the beginning of this conversation, kind of tying this back into your G6 allies, this is one of the ways that you're contributing to one of those third category of really helping holistically as a hub of resources, you're kind of in this space of helping pastors financially, specifically through getting into the world of trading. Is that a fair summary there?
Yeah, absolutely. Because listen, if your finances are a mess, you're going to be way too distracted to be the best pastor that you can be, right? It's going to negatively impact your ability to minister well. And so we want to help you be financially healthy so that you can focus on the things that really matter, like shepherding your flock, caring for your congregation, leading your ministry, caring for your family, doing all of those things. That's what we want to see. And so we want to help you do that financially from that aspect.
So tell us a little bit about, without going too deep into the weeds and giving away all your trade secrets, tell us a little bit about your groups and the ways that you serve. If someone were to sign up with you and be a part of what you're doing, what does that look like? What's the product, if you will, or the process?
Yeah.
What am I getting from you?
Yeah. So let's start with the investing one. This one is where we teach complete beginners what the market is, what stocks are, how the stock market works, and kind of give you that foundational level of understanding investing. It's ideal for those who want to build longer term wealth. It's great for like IRA accounts. So if you want to start investing for yourself in retirement. And we walk through a monthly process with a list of, we just started the month of July. I send out a newsletter to all those subscribers and say, hey, in July, here's a list of 30 to 50 stocks that I'm watching that are great opportunities to look at this month. And from there, we're going to look at each week. We're going to pick a handful of those to evaluate a little more closely and provide some entry signals, some exit signals, all of that kind of stuff. We're going to walk through all of that together. And it's a lot of that is based on understanding the seasonal nature of stocks. That many, not all of them, but many stocks have a seasonal tendency to them that you can look at over the last 20, 30 years and see that during this time of the year, this stock has gone up 80% of the time from this period to this period. And the reasons behind that, they're numerous. It may be that that's when hedge funds typically roll their things around and it drives money into it, whatever the reasons are. But we can look back historically and see that stocks have done really well. These stocks have done really well during this time period. So those are the ones that we're looking to purchase, right? And so that kind of helps give us a little bit of an edge on our investment. And there's a few other components to it that we work in there, but we teach you how to do all of that. And that has performed really, really well over the last probably 4 or 5 years. That has averaged 30+% annual returns year after year, and so it's done really well. It's unless you're starting with a huge amount of money, it's not going to earn a living for you, but it's going to significantly outperform mutual funds and target date funds and that kind of stuff. It's just going to do better than those. The other level is the one that I call it tent makers because it is kind of more that you're generating additional income so that you can focus on ministry. And that's the options trading one. And so we have an entire system training program where we will walk you through over the course of a year, walk you through what options are, because options can be very scary if you've never traded before, or if you first time you look at what's called an options chain where they show the list of all of the options for an individual stock. It's just information overload, and it can be terrifying. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose a lot of money. But if you understand it, and if you follow the principles that I teach and the education that I provide for it, you begin to see that it's actually less risky, and you can limit your risk to a much greater degree, and it requires less capital than purchasing stocks do. And so we're in and out of these trades usually within a couple of weeks or so. And same kind of thing. I hold your hand through it, show you every single week. I provide 4 different opportunities for you to look at, exact entry points, exit points, all of that. We work out a whole business plan on how you can develop this and grow this business, with the end goal being that when someone joins this program, it's a 12-month commitment, and we're going to walk through a whole bunch of different aspects partially through pre-recorded self-paced course content, as well as monthly live group coaching calls and some supplemental resources that we put in there as well. But if you can commit to going through that for a year, and you're starting your account with $2,000 in your own brokerage account, the goal is by the end of that 12-month period, you will have a business. You'll be running your own business that's consistently making anywhere between $700 and $1,000 a month by the end of that 12-month program, and then you can scale it from there. But that's the goal.
Yeah, and again, that could be more if you have
for sure
bigger nest egg to begin with or whatever. So, and again, we make the point often at EntrePastors that for some pastors that would be a game changer, just an extra $500 a month or $1,000 a month. Well, certainly others are looking for much more than that. You know, it's fine either way, but sometimes it doesn't take a lot just to bring some breathing room into the life of a ministry family that otherwise is feeling that pressure. So, you know, I love that is a viable thing. I love, you know, how you're packaging all of that. Let me ask this. What would be the best way for someone to reach out to you if they wanted to jump in and learn more or get signed up to work with you? Where would you have them go?
Yeah, I would send you to our website, g6allies.com/finances. Or you can email me at michael@g6allies.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll put all of that in the show notes, the links to all of that. I've got one last question for you, unless Les has anything else. I always just love to ask about, you know, kind of a general words of encouragement or advice for a pastor that's listening to this and they're recognizing, look, I need to do something. And it's okay for me to make a few extra dollars than what I've been making. And you have an opportunity to speak into their life. What would you say to encourage that pastor that right now is still pretty stuck in that traditional model of I get one source of income and it's through the local church and that's it, and you get to encourage them? What would you say?
Well, I mean, somewhat selfishly, I would encourage them to contact me and let's talk about that. One of the things in the pastors that I talk to, one of the things that is holding them back or that's making them hesitant about starting a side hustle is kind of that time commitment component to it. Like my church is demanding so much of my time. I'm committing 50, 60 hours a week to this. I just don't have time to give 20 or 30 hours a week to starting something else. And this is why I think investing is one of the greatest side hustles for busy ministry leaders, is because everything that I just talked about and walked through, we do it in less than an hour a week. And so it takes very, very little time to do that. And so if time is the big hesitancy for you, then it's not as big of an obstacle as you think it is. So I want to encourage you to you know, take that little bit of risk, step out there, at least learn more about it. And we do risk-free trials and stuff, so you can try it out. And if it's not for you, then hey, we give you your money back. It's not no skin off our back at all. We want to make sure that this is what you want. But we know people who join this and do this and commit to it are going to love the benefits that they're going to reap from it. So it is absolutely worth your time and worth the effort that you'd put into learning a skill like this.
Good stuff. Les, have you got anything else before we wrap up today?
I did. Well, I did, but Michael answered the questions. And so I think that's a great way to wrap it up. A good summary. Thank you, Michael, for being willing to come on and talk to our folks.
For sure. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, hey, thanks for watching this episode of the EntrePastors podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we release a new episode. If you'd like to get connected to other pastors who are learning to think, act, and thrive as prosperous entrepreneurs, then we invite you to check us out on Facebook. Just search for the EntrePastors Connect group, answer a few of our simple questions there, and we'd love to include you in the conversations. And if you're really ready to go to the next level, then we invite you to join our EntrePastors membership community. When you become a monthly subscriber, you will receive access to courses, exclusive community, and coaching that will help you along in your own EntrePastors journey. If there's anything else we can do to serve you, please visit us at EntrePastors.com, and we will do our best to serve you there. God bless everybody. See you soon.